Hello, hello. Okay, I think I'm ready to get started. All right, I think I need to stand for this one. I thought I was going to sit, but I just have so much energy at this moment that coming live, I definitely wanted to be able to share some insight that's super valuable for me. So I hope that this will also be valuable for you. So today's video on Trade, Travel, Learn, we're going to be talking about overcoming the fear of failure. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Stephanie. I am the owner of the Instagram page Trade, Travel, Learn. And I'm super passionate about following my dreams and my vision for my future. And when one door closes, another one opened, and a car accident actually led me to think outside of the box and look at different ways of using the skills and the abilities I have in a different capacity. So, what was an unfortunate circumstance actually turned into, um, I guess, a blessing in disguise, right? So we never know when blessings can come from situations that we didn't expect. And so, my name is Stephanie. We're going to be talking about 5 tips for overcoming the fear of failure. And so, why am I, out of all people, talking about the fear of failure? When over almost 2 years ago, when over 2 years ago, I experienced a car accident that left me really questioning who I am and who I am as a person. When all physicality was taken away from me, I had to figure out and really reflect and grow on how I can become who I am and what do I stand for and what direction do I want to take for my future. So I wanted to get into overcoming the fear of failure when you have to start over again, or whatever your situation or circumstance is that you are facing, whether it's fear of making a big change, fear of your situation, fear of the unknown of what you can accomplish if you did the work and made the change that you are considering, but you're just scared to take action. We're going to be talking about 5 tips here of taking risks, such as personal growth and increasing our confidence. And these will help us be able to face those fears and accomplish our goals, our dreams, and our destiny ultimately. So, tip number one is changing your mindset about failure. So, after my car accident, I was in a very low place because, from one minute to the next, my life was changed, my physicality was changed, and um, my mindset around failure and trying to recover, but um, you know, it going against the grain and the amount of time that was required for me to continue to work on recovery is really I really had to figure out what my mindset was. And luckily, I was dived into personal growth and development before this. And so it really allowed me to set myself up where I was like at a higher level of positivity and more introspective person who was very in touch with where I was at in the physicality, that actually um the accident really opened a door of emotions that I hadn't been experiencing for a long while. So I was just touching on that. So we can either choose our mindset about failure so that it's not gonna allow us to hold us back, but rather using that failure or that fear of failure to propel us forward. So, what do I mean about this? I mean, switching your mindset and reframing what failure is. Failure is actually an opportunity to learn, right? So, instead of saying that you are going through something, you can actually say that you are growing through something. It's a situation, a circumstance that maybe you're going through, and you want to focus on the positive aspects of the experience, because out of every experience, if you take it with a grain of salt and you're open to receive it, you can learn something about yourself and your circumstances through that experience. Um, and also setting up systems in place to remind ourselves that everyone fails at times, right? Everyone fails. We are humans, and humans experience failure. And failure is not neither positive or negative. I would say it's neutral, and how our mind perceives it allows us to interpretate whether it's a good thing or whether it's a bad thing. So I would not hesitate to speak about how our school systems tend to program us, uh, to do a task, get a reward, do a task, get a treat, right? Some kind of feedback that we're getting back, whether it's from completing an assignment, doing a test. We tend to fear failing, failing a test, failing an exam, because of the fear, that situation of the circumstances that will come about if we fail. So it's like, oh, if I fail my driver's license, then I have to redo the test, right? So when there's that consequence that could potentially be negative, or that we perceive it as negative, it's not a bad thing to fail your driver's license, for example. It's just giving you feedback that you're not ready yet, right? So the failure that happens is not, it's not neither negative or positive. It's neutral, and how we perceive it is up to our mind. So we can change our mindset about failure and really reframe that failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. And instead of saying that you're going through something, you can say that you are growing through something. All right. Tip number two: failure actually builds confidence. So when we overcome that circumstance that we were going through, as challenging as it may be, remember that by you overcoming that the not the failure itself, but the fear of failure itself, is actually going to help you build your confidence. So here are some practical strategies for building confidence. I want you to start setting goals and celebrating your achievements, surrounding yourself with supportive people, and practicing self care, right? These sound like very basic things, but when you are taking good care of yourself, your self care, having that shower in the morning, spending the extra um, 10 minutes, brush your hair, brush your teeth, and really just taking care of yourself, that's going to help build confidence. Those habits are going to build confidence. And when you feel good, you smell good, you look good, you are actually going to feel more confident. So, practicing self care is super important. I can tell you that have been days as I've been recovering from my accident where I just didn't have any energy left. I was just like exhausted. I experienced a lot of chronic fatigue. And I was challenged days to, whether I was going to have a shower before I go to bed, or in the morning I would be so exhausted when I'd wake up. And the days that I didn't shower in the morning because I was like didn't have time or was too lazy, it affected my mood and my confidence and how I carried myself out throughout the day. Supporting, being supported by others is a huge factor that I don't want to not highlight. If you, um, it's super important to surround yourself with a supportive people. And I'm going to tag on to this of what is supportive people. So there's a couple different ways that people can support you. Number one, there are people that say that they'll support you, like, oh, I support you, right? And there's also supportive people who actually they'll support you, but they will do it in a way that may challenge you to grow, right? These are going to be the foundation of your support group. These are people who you actually want in your corner. People who are not going to support you by just agreeing with whatever you say, but they're going to support you in that they're going to actually um consider your best interests at heart and are going not necessarily tell you what you want to hear, but they will tell you what you need to hear. So consider who are those support people that you have in your life. And, if you can name off five, you're in good hands. Now, for myself, I'm living like a ways away from my family, my blood family. So I've adopted quite a few adopted chosen family or chosen support partners. So for myself, my business partners, my mentors, they are in my support corner, and I turn to them for guidance and help and assistance in those matters, and I know that they have my best interest at heart. So I'm going to seek out to them rather to than those who are not in that role. So I do have people who say that they support me, but are people that may just choose to use words and not rather it's not followed up through action. And others, they might just say it, but it doesn't bear any weight. So yeah, so just um taking conscious inventory of who's in your corner and choosing those that are actually going to support you, right? And then setting those small goals and celebrating your achievements. So goal setting is huge. You first need to see it in your mind, you need to see it on paper, and you need to commit to it in your heart. So, if you do those three things when you're setting a goal, it's going to help you build confidence in your goal. So, the third tip I want to talk to you about is facing your fears. Acknowledge that facing your fears is necessary for your growth and overcoming the fear of failure. So, when we face our fear, you got to think it of I love the word face because um it's such a word that paints a picture of the action that's necessary, right? So, when we face something like we're facing our fear, we are actually confronting it. We're looking it eyeball to eyeball. You're looking at you're facing it, right? Um it can be scary, but the growth that will come from it and from you overcoming that fear is going to really help you build that confidence that you're looking for and help you overcome that fear of failure. So, if we're putting things on the back shelf, if we're putting it in the back seat, if it's in the rear view mirror, we have that vision of things that are behind us or are in our back, right? And it could be forgotten, right? But when we put the word of facing your fears, it's like looking it straight on. Thus, the thing that you fear is the thing that you must face. right? And I think of from the law of specificity. If you wanted to be a good swimmer, you would practice swimming. You would do it day in and out, just like Michael Phelps did, right? If I wanted to be better at pole vaulting, I'm not going to go swimming every day. I'm going to pole vault. And that is the law of specificity. And we can apply that in any area of your life. If you want to become better at music, if your fear is of making phone calls, thus you must make phone calls to face your fear, right? So I hope that makes sense. When you're facing your fears, taking small steps towards your goals and really visualizing what you're going to do and how it's going to come, and practicing some mindfulness and managing your anxiety is key for facing your fears. Sometimes people live in a very either or like a black or white, and they think, oh, I'm nervous, therefore I'm not going to take that step. But like fear is, fear stands for false evidence appearing real, right? Or it could be, I can't remember what I wanted to say here, but you know, it's like face everything and run, you know, or it's like you are facing everything. You face it and you work through it and you accomplish it. So, if you practice some mindfulness skills and to help you manage your anxiousness, this can help with your situation. And a dear coach of mine actually really helped me with the visualization and what helped me to really stand in my strength zone and get grounded. So, the technique of getting grounded is the technique of, let's say you're standing up and you find your strength pose, a position that you stand in that you just feel strong and you feel confident in. And you take that position when you are working on facing that fear. So, for example, at the beginning of this call, I said, oh, I was going to sit down, and then I chose to stand up because I just felt I had so much energy, right? And I realized and recognized with that energy that if I'm standing, then I'm rooted and I have that energy. I can actually I can use that energy more effectively if I'm standing. So I hope that makes sense. Um yeah, so secondly, I would like to just share w- other so I'm just continuing on this story. So my coach at one point, she said, "Okay, Steph, you need to find your power position, where you feel most confident." And it brought me, and she asked me, like, when is a time in your life where you felt most strong, in power, and in control? And I remember doing this during a time that I was in a very bad relationship and I needed the strength to leave the relationship. And she helped me and guided me in this and figuring out how I can um, face my fears and work through a very challenging situation. And I recalled the time when I was in karate. I was in karate and I remember some of the positions, like kind of like a sparring stance, just rooting your feet on the ground, bending your knees, and standing tall and confidently was a huge game changer for me. So I know that, um, for example, I wouldn't say that I'm like a anything like of a professional public speaker, but in the few situations where I have spoken, I'm sure to really bend my knees, get grounded in my feet, and really feeling that posture. And it's helped me stay very much rooted and stay confident in what I was working on. And our body language and our body positioning really can change how we come across either to others and how we feel as a person to ourselves. So if you do this exercise with me right now and you kind of shrug your shoulders forward and you round your back and you make yourself like a turtle or smaller. Okay, number one, it's going to put more constriction in your heart, in your throat. You're going to feel tightness through your stomach as well. Um, in this turtle position here, we tend not to feel confident. We tend to, this is our position when we're feeling ill, when we're feeling sick. And so, if you recognize that you're in this turtle position, pulling those shoulders back, and finding that strength zone, that area where you feel most strong, whether it's just, making sure your chest is out, your shoulders are back and feeling that confident place, um, you're going to you're going to feel so much better. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, so those were some practical tips for managing anxiety and just when you are facing the fear, that anxiety or those little butterflies in your stomach doesn't mean to stop. It is actually your engine warming up, and it's telling you that you're ready to go, right? We need to embrace failure as a learning opportunity. um, if you approach it like a learning opportunity, it is you're going to receive so much more from it. So it is important for personal growth, to be always working on growing and trying to become the best you that you can be. And when you're digging into positive growth or personal growth, um, it's going to help with your mindset and structuring and embracing failure. So if you look and the feedback that you're receiving from failure is telling you, okay, rather than going left here, when I get to that spot, I need to go right, right? And we're using it as feedback. If it's a feedback loop where if you receive the failure as an opportunity to learn, then you learn through your mistakes and you learn how you can improve. And it takes action. So that leads into my last step. 5 is to take action. So I encourage you that whatever situation, circumstance that you're going through, you need to take action. Okay? Doing nothing is going to leave you exactly where you are, and it's going to turn pretty much it's going to turn a molehill, like a little tiny fear that you had, into a huge mountain, and that's not what we want to do. We actually need to take action in order to overcome the fear of failure. So, I just wanted to thank you for tuning in to this video. I really appreciate it. And I hope to include a couple more stories as I continue to get more used to and comfortable on YouTube here. But so just to recap, the 5 tips that I left with you today. One is change your mindset about failure. Okay, so use your failure to help you propel you forward. Don't don't let it be the thing that puts the brakes on. Let those failures let you put the gas on, all right? So those failures, you're adding more fire to the fuel, or you're adding more fuel to the fire of what you want, right? It's like Thomas Edison. He figured out, 10,000 ways that electricity didn't work before he figured out how it did work. Number 2, change your mindset about failure. Okay? So, um, that will enable you to build confidence. Overcoming the failure of failure builds confidence. When you feel confident, you're going to take more action. So start small again with some small goals, and you can celebrate these small wins, right? For some people, rather than focusing on a win that takes a whole week to accomplish, maybe the fact that you went 1 hour without, maybe the fact you went half a day without, or you did it for 1 minute, right? Maybe you did one push up today, and tomorrow you did one push up. And it's not the fact that you did a bunch, it's the fact that you took action, right? We face our fears. So that was tip number 3, face your fears. Okay? Usually, if something is scary, it means that you should be doing it, right? In most sense, right? Like there's obviously reasons why we wouldn't do something, but we need to face our fear, right? When we face our fear, we're keeping our fear in front of us. And it means that we are working through it and we are growing through it, right? Tip number 4, embrace failure as a learning opportunity, right? And it's like, okay, Steph, it's so easy to just for you to say that. Embrace it as a learning opportunity. Well, let me tell you, sometimes failure is not by choice. Sometimes failure just happens based off of your circumstances, and you need to choose to have a positive attitude around it. Use the opportunity to learn, grow from your mistakes, and the feedback to improve. And last tip number 5 is take action. So I just want to talk finally about taking action. Sometimes we wait to feel encouraged, to be motivated, right? And in the end, action happens because you took an act. An act is a verb. It's a doing, it's a being, it's something that you are doing. So make sure that you're taking action. Um, there are always going to be risks to taking action, but there's also risks of not taking action. And I would encourage you to play it out in your head. What does it look like if you took action? And how would it play out if you didn't take action? Right? In two senses, you're either going to experience fear in the manner of fear of failure or fear of regret. Which would you prefer to live in and live through? I can tell you personally that living through and overcoming the fear of failure, building that confidence, strengthening your mindset around fear, facing those fears and taking action is going to have you being in a place of strength, and it will, those small little wins, as small as they will continue to accumulate, and you'll be able to accomplish more and greater things. In conclusion, thank you for watching this video, and I hope those 5 tips were helpful for you. I encourage you to leave comments or questions in the comments below. If you are not subscribed yet, please do subscribe. Um, and also, you can find me on Instagram at the same handle, Trade, Travel, and Learn. There's no end in between, but Trade, Travel, Learn. And thanks for tuning in, and cheers.